I will never forget the moment I remembered who I am. Now, this has happened once before, 15 years ago, during a traumatic divorce that completely broke me open. But this time the collapse was different. It's a was a quiet undoing, a full on dismantling of everything that I thought that I knew about myself and about life. Something inside of me was shifting, even though I couldn't fully name it. And I know you've been feeling it too. I've been talking about this for a while, and many of you are responding that you are experiencing the same thing. And I'm calling it a threshold moment, and it's a collective one. Because what's happening to me is also happening to many of you. And I want you to know something. We're not just ending a new chapter. We are writing a new book. Hi, I am Marjorie Boswick Phoenix, and I am the founder of the Emergent Women Collective, a space for women that are in that in-between realm who are ready to reimagine and redefine what leadership, life, and love looks like. So if you're new here, I want to invite you to please subscribe so more women can find this work and this content. So in 2012, I wrote a book, a memoir called Who the Hell Do You Think You Are? And it was about rebuilding my life through homelessness, a custody battle, and one of the most darkest seasons I've ever experienced. And that was my first remembering. That was my first collapse that forced me back into myself. And here's what I've learned then and what I'm learning again now with this experience. For women, these life-altering thresholds, they always arrive in two ways, in two forms. Sometimes they're breaking the door wide open on you. No, with no announcement. I've shared this before, no signal, no time for you to gather your thoughts or gather your things. And then sometimes they come as a whisper that won't leave you alone. So I want to ask you, which one are you living through right now? Because the last time mine came violently, and this time it was a whisper, this quiet unraveling that asked me to stop. It asked me to listen and tell the truth about where I was and who I was becoming. There comes a time when everything you were holding together, it stops holding. The structures you built, the routines, the roles, the plans, everything starts to come undone. Now, it's not because you're failing at anything, although it feels like that, right? But it's because we can no longer carry the weight of who we're becoming. You can't carry that old stuff with you anymore. This is the collapse. So everything you thought you knew, it was a lie. This is the awakening before the remembering. And like I said, it's quietest at first. You feel restless, you feel this pressure, you're hearing your voice, this voice whispering to you, telling you, this isn't it anymore. This isn't hitting it. This isn't doing it. And if you ignore, it gets louder. And it's doing this as a way to guide you. It wants you to listen. And that's exactly what happened to me this past year. The whisper kept pulling at the seams of my life. First, there was work. Lost my job in 2024, had started building my consulting business right away, but nothing was sticking. My identity, I kept stepping outside of myself with a sense of curiosity because the person that I felt that I was, it wasn't matching. It wasn't matching with what I was sensing that was happening around me. Then there was relationships. I couldn't handle being around lots of people. I couldn't handle superficial conversations and friendships. And people started to fall away on their own. It all began unraveling in the slow motion long before I could really describe and understand what this all was and what it meant. And here's the thing, I didn't want to admit. I was, all the while I was building a life from fear. Fear that time was running out, fear that if I didn't keep producing, somehow I would just vanish and disappear. I'm 55, turning 56. I don't have much time left. This is what I'm telling myself. Fear that slowing down meant I was losing ground. But my body knew the truth. My body kept sending me signals. My emotional fog was that everything that I'm trying to fit, like I'm trying to fit a square into a circle. The anxiety that I was having, this deep down knowing that this is not really what you're supposed to be doing. And this exhaustion that came from you're performing to keep other people satisfied and happy and not yourself. And then there was just these moments of, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what to do. And that's what brought me to surrendering. But I kept pushing, right? Before I surrendered, I kept pushing. I kept pushing past all of that because, hey, I'm a high achieving woman. Okay. I've done this before. I'm successful. I know what to do. So what do? We override, we overperform, we survive until we can't. So the collapse this time wasn't dramatic. It was subtle. It was like, a soft, slow breaking down and undoing. But over time, it was enough to pull me to just stop, full stop, and surrender. All right. And when I finally got quiet enough to listen, when I surrendered to what life was trying to show me, I realized that this wasn't just my collapse, that this was the collapse. Like it was a collective collapse. You all might have heard me say before, while we're witnessing a social revolution, we're all going through a personal evolution, our own internal revolutions. Women everywhere are standing at their own threshold, feeling this same unraveling, this pressure, this whisper that's saying, damn it, enough. Not anymore. No more of this. So we aren't experiencing separate breakdowns. We're actually experiencing a shared initiation. Something in the feminine is waking up. Something in us is remembering. And that collapse, this is the doorway. So the collapse is not the ending. It is the beginning of this new rhythm, of this new book that we're all writing. Because once everything fell apart, something else starts to rise in its place. right? We're feeling that. And I begin hearing myself again, right? I begin hearing clear, right? And it wasn't coming from fear or pressure or this voice to perform. It was this deeper voice, the one that I actually had abandoned when survival became the assignment, right? That's what I call like the bridge. And it's that moment when, it feels like the dust begins to settle a bit. You're still, you're like, okay, I survived this unraveling and it's time for something new. So you start listening even more to your own inner knowing, right? Because it's when you begin choosing from truth instead of fear, you start to hear more clearly. When you stop trying to force and start feeling, when you stop performing and start becoming. And this is the part most women don't talk about. This isn't comfortable, but it is wildly enlightening. It is so clarifying. You might still be looking around and saying, my bank account is empty, no job prospect, no client prospects, relationship just end. But my God, do I not feel the clearest I've ever felt in my life, the most grounded, the most open. Because what's happening is you're beginning to notice what no longer fits, and it's like those old roles feel too small. Old expectations feel too heavy. Old rhythms feel impossible to return to. Okay, my battery was running out, so I had to stop there for a second. But anyway, so like I was saying, the woman you were, you can't carry forward anymore, right? And the woman you're becoming hasn't fully revealed herself yet. So what do? Right? You walk forward anyway. You don't have to have it all figured out now. Just one honest step at a time. For me, that looked like listening to my body instead of overriding it, slowing down long enough to hear my intuition, saying no to what drained me even when it scared me, letting go of versions of success that weren't mine. That's a big one. Choosing alignment over approval and rebuilding my life at a pace of my nervous system. I don't have to rush this. We do not have to rush this. This is where the feminine begins to rise. When we begin choosing, we don't let life happen to us. We're choosing life. We're choosing the direction we want to go in. In the quiet decision to live in a way that nourishes instead of depletes us. It's glitching the matrix for sure. At this threshold, this is the invitation. This is the shift, and this is the turning of, no, this isn't a turning of a page. This is a closing of a book and opening a new one. It's the moment when questions become, who am I willing to become now? And if you're in your own threshold moment at this time, if everything in your life feels like it's rearranging, and if you sense a new version of yourself forming beneath the rubble of this old story, Let me be clear. You're not lost. You're not stuck. You're crossing your threshold moment. The bridge is guiding you forward, and there is a very specific assignment waiting on the other side for you. So during your threshold moment, something begins to happen, and it's going to be unmistakable. You're going to start remembering. You remember your voice, the one you softened to try to keep peace. You remember your instincts, the one you override because you were taught to trust logic over knowing. You remember your desires, the ones you buried because they felt inconvenient. You remember your rhythm, the one the world told you to ignore. The great remembering isn't something that is nostalgic in nature. It is revolutionary. It is the soul pulling us into alignment with who we were always meant to be. This has happened collectively for humanity, but I'm speaking to you, the feminine, right now, because we have a specific assignment. And here's what it is. Remembering must become embodied. Otherwise, it stays a concept, a beautiful idea that never becomes your lived reality. Embodied remembrance, it looks like choosing truth over performance. It looks like saying, I refuse to live like this anymore, and meaning it. It looks like speaking from your gut. It looks like trusting the timing of your life instead of forcing outcomes, honoring your intuition when it's whispering to you, resting when your nervous system is telling you it needs to rest, letting your body set the pace. It looks like remembering that leadership isn't a role, it's a frequency. This is the feminine assignment for 2026. No more hustle harder, no more becoming palatable for other people, no longer fitting into collapsing systems, but to embody the remembrance that is surfacing inside of you. Because the remembrance is what activates your leadership. It activates your life. It activates love. And the embodiment of it all stabilizes it. So you don't need that 5-year plan. You don't need to vision out 10 years. You need one clear truth you're willing to honor. Start there. Let your body respond to it. Let your rhythm lead. Let your intuition speak. Let the remembering take shape in the physical world, in the choices that you make, and in your presence, in your voice, in boundaries that you set. That is the assignment. Not perfection, embodied remembrance. And when you live from that place, you don't just change yourself, you're changing the field around you. You become part of the great remembering that is unfolding now, the collective rising of the feminine and women who are no longer willing to forget themselves to survive. This is this is our time. This is our turning. And this is the work. When a woman begins to remember herself, there's no going back. Everything shifts. The collapse, we turn it on its head. The collapse was an opening for you. The threshold moment is the crossing into this truer version of you. And this assignment you're stepping into, this embodied remembrance, is the beginning of who you are becoming now. You were never meant to lead from a place of exhaustion or pressure. You were meant to lead from what lives inside you. So if you're feeling this moment and if you know you're standing in your own threshold moment and you're hearing you can't go back, then this is the turning point. Your only job now is to stay with what you're remembering and to let it land in your body and to let it guide you to your next move. And if you want to understand more fully what embodied leadership actually looks like in your body, in your voice, in your choices, and I want you to watch my video titled The Embodied Feminine Leader. And in that video, I walk you through the difference between leading from disconnection and leading from the truth that lives inside you. And if you're craving community of women who are walking the same path, I want to invite you to join the Emergent Women Collective, free on Skool, Skool. So if you go to Skool, you can type in the Emergent Women Collective. And inside the collective, we gather for monthly remembering circles. We explore feminine leadership together, and you'll be able to access ongoing classes and tools and be a part of the conversation that supports your evolution in real time. And for those of you who even want to go deeper with this work, we have the Emergent Saloon for only $19 a month. That's where you and I get to work more closely together. You don't have to navigate this threshold alone. There's a community waiting for you, women who are remembering right alongside you. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Remember to like, share, subscribe to show your support. I'm Marjorie, and this is the work of becoming who you were always meant to be.